You may or may not know his name. His name is Robert Vanella. He's an activist here in Delaware, and we've got a great interview with him. Next on The Hard Talk with Jakim. Hi, this is your man Jakim Muhammad, and this is The Hard Talk with Jakim. All right. This is Jakim Muhammad. All right, you know I'm back with the Hard Talk, and today I'm back down at the pit. And today I've got a great guest over here. You already saw it in the promo. You probably saw it on Facebook or Instagram. You already know who he is, but I'm going to give him his introduction. This is my man, an activist in Delaware, Mr. Robert Vanella. You give it up for my man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me in the pit. I'm usually in the bunker.
That's right. I've been to the bunker.
I love it. We have to do this. This is the whole idea of it. We have to spread it out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, we've got a lot of things to go over today. So we've got you for about 45 to maybe 30 to 45 minutes because he's getting ready to go down to Washington, D.C. tomorrow. And he's getting ready to do some big things there.
Yeah, luckily, I think this doesn't come out until Friday. So this isn't going out. So I can give you a little hint.
Yeah.
Some of our local legislators should be prepared to see my face tomorrow.
Yes.
So we'll talk to him about a lot of things. We'll talk to him about Trump judges. We'll talk to him about Medicare for all. We'll talk to him about a lot of things, and we're going to let them know that we're here and we have things to say to them.
I love it, man. Let me tell you something. One of the things that warms my heart is when we get a lot of good people like you and a lot of good people that's been in Delaware getting involved in the process and making sure that their voice is heard. And what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, as you've been on my podcast, the Highlands Bunker, and you sort of understand that right now people's voices aren't being heard.
That is correct.
Whether you look at citywide, in the state, or in the country, there's small but very powerful, I call them cliques.
Yes.
Cliques. I mean, that's one of the reasons my podcast is tongue-in-cheek called the Highlands Bunker, is because the Highlands represents, I think, one of those very small but powerful political cliques. And if we all start getting involved and we pull more people into it and we show people, hey, you can make a YouTube video, you can make a podcast, you can actually go down and go into a legislator's office and tell them what you think.
Exactly.
And get like-minded people. The small but powerful cliques will put up obstacles to keep you out of it. Mm-hmm. And we have to get ourselves out of those things and into a more broader sort of effort and organizing that's going to help people.
I think not only are you right on and dead on, but these silos that we were in Delaware for a long period of time is going to stop because people are just fed up. They're seeing that they're not getting the bang for their buck. They've got some wicked politicians out there that they're only there for the corporation. Now, I will say this. If you're not there for community and corporations, we have no problem with a person making $1. I have a problem if it's always skewed to one side. And that's what we like in life. We want balance.
Yeah, I mean, that you see that in the city and in the state most especially, is, the folks who are incented to make changes, to build things, to do things. Do they help everyone? Are they looking to alleviate issues and help people who need it to meet their material needs, like housing, like healthcare?
That's right.
I would argue that they're not. I would say that they're done for real estate development, for people to have money, to be able to spend their money. And again, I don't necessarily have a problem with living your life and having fun.
That's right.
But again, we should be advocating for incenting people and doing things that are going to meet the material needs of people, not make pockets of things that are nice so that real estate developers can make money and that people that have affluent jobs can go spend their money.
And you're absolutely right. When I was at the Highland Bunker, we talked about a lot of things. You read from a book there. I love that.
Yeah.
And so, are you on Patreon? Patreon, excuse me.
Yeah, no worries. So we're on patreon.com, the Highlands Bunker. So it's a website, but you can also download a mobile app. All of my stuff is there. We have artwork up there. We have our podcast up there. Actually, tomorrow when I'm in D.C., I plan to do a few sort of educational videos, sort of Activist 101.
Right.
Like, this is how you do it, this is what happens, and sort of break the spell of like what actually happens, when you see a 30-second clip on television of somebody getting pulled down a hallway, or somebody yelling. I mean, I think you're going to see some today because the House Republicans went in and broke up a secret meeting. So when you see that stuff, maybe I can give you a little behind-the-scenes look. But that's all there on Patreon. You can also become a patron of the show. I do send some stuff out, especially for patrons. But we are also on iTunes. So Highlands Bunker on iTunes. It's under my producer's Carl Stomberg. He put it up there, so you can subscribe there and get updates as well.
All right. Well, I love it. Well, we actually here at the Hard Talk, we at the Pit now, and you're in the lovely village of Dudley. How did you like Dudley?
It actually reminds. I grew up in a neighborhood just outside the city. I grew up over by where Conrad is. My parents went to Conrad when it was a high school.
Wow.
So I grew up over there. So I grew up in one of what I consider sort of like the first edges of suburbs. So it actually it reminded me of the neighborhood I grew up in. Actually.
Well, I know you're in Trolley Square, and tell me about Trolley Square. What's going on big over there?
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't point out that they call it 40 acres in between Trolley Square and the Highlands. But
oh wow!
But yeah, I mean it's as advertised. It's a nice neighborhood. There's a lot of bars and restaurants and culture around. I'll tell you a funny story though.
Sure.
They just opened a new restaurant. Brian Sikora opened it.
Okay.
Guy, Lafia, him and his wife, they're excellent. The restaurant's excellent. It's in the old Banks, right on Delaware Avenue, right in the middle of Trolley Square. The food was excellent. But, you can only put so many sort of upscale restaurants in one place.
Yes.
You can only do, you sort of see the same people, you see the same conversations, and I guess it's just what floats your boat, but Nurse Susan, my wife, was a little bit, she was a little bit down on it. It was a little too fancy.
Well, I heard a couple of months ago that they were having some problems with some of the restaurants that wanted to expand over there. Some of the community members did not want the expansion to some of the restaurants. I think they were going up in height. I can't remember which one.
The one I remember most is over the, I've been there 10 years, I think, 11 years. Over that time, I know that there's been an ongoing thing with Kelly's Logan House.
Yes.
And it was a live music thing. So when could they have live music? Were they allowed before? They didn't use it. There's a lot of back and forth of, neighbors saying we made an agreement, we didn't make an agreement, whatever it is. So yeah, I mean, there's a feeling of the not in my backyard.
Always.
Everywhere you go. One of the most pernicious ones going on right now in the city, right near here, is on Lancaster Avenue, where they have a treatment center.
Yes.
Folks are being treated for addiction issues and mental health issues, and there's a fight about trying to give our neighbors health care. And people don't want it near them. They say, it increases crime or increases litter or increases loitering. Of course, there's really no evidence of this. Every time it's been studied, you don't see people getting treatment and also, doing violent crime or anything like that. But people just don't like the idea of those type of things near them. But then where do they go?
Yes.
These are our neighbors that need treatment. Where do they go?
Well, Robert, that's great because I'm going to go to the board, and that's where we're going to go to right here.
Board.
So our next thing that we have that I wanted to talk to is a great segue. Marijuana, recreation, legalization. Are you for it or are you against it in here?
Well, everybody, if people know me, and this is my first time also recording my face and everything, this is good. I'm what would be called colloquially a stoner. Okay. So I smoke every day.
All right, and there's nothing wrong with that.
And it seems to me I have a couple of health issues, which it does actually help with.
Yes.
I guess I didn't realize it was doing that until after I was doing it this long. But the fact remains that it's a fairly benign, for adults, it's fairly benign. Certainly drinking alcohol is far worse for you. Smoking cigarettes is far, far worse. And we allow those things for reasons that I think we all understand. That sort of liberty, you can just do what you want.
Right.
Marijuana has a bad rap for a lot of different cultural reasons, going back to reefer madness in the 20s, and
yes, it does.
It was associated with a certain element. It was associated with jazz musicians and Mexican farm workers, and
hippies,
and
of
hippies,
course.
Of course. Yeah, you got to pin them on. On something. So I think that, and I think you're seeing it more and more as states start to legalize, and it becomes sort of a regular course of business somewhere. Like if somebody goes out to Seattle or California now, or Colorado, you just walk into a shop and you can buy a few cigarettes, you can buy what you want, you go home, you go to a party, you chill out, you watch a movie, you just do it.
Right.
Well, as that starts to happen over time, it's going to become very difficult then to say we have to have it illegal here, because obviously it's what you thought it was going to do, it's not doing. I'm a supporter of full legalization as soon as possible. I think the only caveat to that would be how it is set up. I'll give you an example. In Ohio, when it was put on the ballot, it was actually the advocates of it actually voted against it and rallied and organized against it, because it was basically a sort of a corporate takeover of it.
Yes.
It was going to say the state can say who can do this,
right.
The state can say who can do that. Here,
a permission society,
basically. And here we have, we have a large ex-police officer community here. I know that's
right. Well, I'll talk about it, right?
But yeah, so they have their own motives and their own ideas of how they would like to keep things illegal and why. So that's something we would have to overcome here, and you have to be careful about how the laws are written, so that it doesn't just become a new mechanism or a new mechanism for control.
There you go. And everybody over here, everybody knows that I'm a former law enforcement officer from New York City, and when I ran for state rep, a lot of people were very surprised that I was for it. And I don't smoke, and I don't drink, and I don't like alcohol, and I don't like marijuana. I don't even like cigarettes. I don't do any of those things. But one thing I am against is the permission society. As long as it doesn't affect me, I think you should be able to do whatever you want to do. Now, I will say this about marijuana legalization, and I hold nothing. I agree with you 100%, because I've seen it in other places when they legalize marijuana, that former police officers, former correction officers, former sheriffs were the only ones that were being growers or dispensaries or whatever. They really locked everybody out from getting into it. And that I felt was so disingenuous.
Yeah, and that was basically, for all intents and purposes, that was the scheme that was going to be the law in Ohio, which is why advocates actually organized against it,
right.
Because it shut people out, it corporatized it, it handed a lot of the power to the police, and that's not the idea.
Right, and I'm totally against that. And I know we're almost going to a break, but we got one more thing before we move on to there. Safe injection sites.
This is great, because this goes right into what I was going to mention about just legalization or the permission society, like you talked about. So the country of Portugal, I suggest everybody try to look into this. Portugal has had for a long time full decriminalization of drugs. This goes for the hardest drugs, heroin, intravenous drugs, everything. But they have a very aggressive, proactive health policy. They go out and they find people who are struggling. They have many different things for them. One of the things they have is safe injection sites. So they've been doing it for a very long time. It's quite successful if people want to go take a look.
And this is Portugal.
This is Portugal, who also just 2 weeks ago elected a socialist government. I'd like to throw that in there. Left is best, everybody. But no, I agree with that kind of stuff, because again, we're not going to use law enforcement and prisons and vagrancy laws, and we're not going to treat sick people It's not a cure for their sickness.
Right.
It's actually making the bonds of our society and our culture worse.
That's right.
So I do agree with safe injection sites in a very controlled way in the model of what Portugal does.
Yeah, I'm a big fan that if we're going to have safe injection sites, and like yourself, it should be in a very controlled way. Now, the biggest thing that most people say is this going to bring down my property value? In most cases, it probably will bring down your property value if you don't want to be near a safe injection site. But at some point in time, we have to think about the people that are hurting. We have to think about how are we going to be as a society, how we're going to be viewed about how the people who are hurting and how we treat those people, and that's important.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, a lot of these things come down to the housing value and the real estate value. I don't know. I mean, if you're treating drug addicted folks in a medical clinic or a professional medical environment, I would think that could be the same with whatever kind of people you're treating. There's nothing inherently dangerous or violent about somebody who's suffering from drug addiction. Just the same way there's nothing inherently dangerous or violent about somebody who's suffering from any kind of mental illness. We know that that's a fact. So we kind of have to break that spell for people to be able to institute some of the things, like you said, safe injection sites and different things like that. But it's a tough argument to make.
Well, it's a very good argument, and it's a very good discussion, open discussion that we're going to have. So I tell you what, we're going to be right back, and we're going to just go to a couple of commercials, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned.